Okay, next it'll ask you to select the pattern to print. If you don't want the pattern that's already up, you just hit select. And then you can then choose your file. We're going to go with the file we have selected. So from here we're going to go to the load the substrate. So we click on load substrate. You can see the platen's clear. We're going to open up the printer. We have our substrate. It's very important that we clean the substrate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to turn the vacuum on. So that keeps the substrate on the platen, and then we're going to clean it. Use some isopropanol. And we're going to use a little bit of acetone. Okay, next we're going to adjust the angle of the cartridge. This is sometimes called the saber angle. And we're going to set this to 0. So what we're looking at here is this notch here, that indent, we want that to be at 0 degrees. And we're going to do this every time you're going to load a cartridge or change a print pattern. We have to set this to 0. And then we're going to check our drop velocities. So from here, we're going to click on the drop watcher icon. It's going to bring up a screen, and you can see the ink cartridge is going to get moved to the side. So from here, what we're going to do is I usually go to nozzle 1 for viewing, and we can see here that nozzle is dropping. And we want to calibrate the screen, and we want to determine the drop velocity, and then we need to have a series of uniform drops with the print heads in a row. So we'd want like 4 of these drops in a row that would be jetting at a universal velocity. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Tools, and we're going to go to Calibrate Nozzle View. And you can see this is already pretty calibrated here from last time. So that X has to line up with where that first nozzle is jetting. So if it's not at that location, we would move the cursor to line everything up. This is lined up. So then we're going to click Next. So from here now we're going to go to nozzle 16, and we can see that nozzle jetting. We can also see that that's pretty much calibrated to where it should be. So again, if this wasn't lined up properly, we'd have to maneuver and line up this X to where that nozzle 16 jet is. Once this is done, I'm just going to click Next, and we're lined up. So from here, we want to try and get 4 nozzles in a row. So I usually just pick a nozzle to start with. We could start. We'll start somewhere in the middle. Nozzle 8. And we can see we have a pretty decent straight drip going on here. So I'm going to also click on 9. And you can see now this nozzle is not really jetting all that well, and it's at a different speed. You can see the drops coming down. So let's look at 7. 7's dropping better than 9, so I'll do 7, and let's look at 6. So 6 is dropping fairly well too. And now you can see that nozzle 8 is not really dropping as well. So there's ways to adjust this. So what we can do is we can look here. These are all the various voltage settings for all the nozzles. So I'm on nozzle 8. So I want to try and change that nozzle speed. I can increase the amount of voltage. The voltage is directly related to the drop speed. So I change that, and you can see nozzle 8's going pretty straight now. But again, I don't have uniform velocities going on, and I have some tilting going on 7. So these are the parameters that you have to adjust in order to get a print quality. Starting in the cartridge settings under the waveform tab, you can look at the voltages first, get a couple of jets that are jetting fairly well, and then you can adjust the voltages. And this can be a process. This could take some time. So if we get, let's look at just 6 and 7 right now. So if we look at 6 and 7, they're fairly almost dropping at the same speed. So we can adjust that. Again, using the voltages. Adjust the voltage of 6. We're getting closer. Now another thing to consider is the overall velocity. So you want to be between the 600 and 900 micrometer mark. So the way to do that is it's already set up. You're just going to hit delay, and that's going to send a strobe out, and you can see that's actually not a picture, it's actually strobing the light to show you the position of the drop. So you can see that drop 7 is fairly stable, but drop 6 seems to be wiggling around a bit. So that's going to lead to a print issue. You're not going to get the print quality you want. So again, you'd have to adjust the voltages. You might have to run some cleaning cycles as well. So if you're not getting, click back to movie mode, just view it as a movie again. If you're not getting the type of drop velocity, or if you're having trouble jetting clearly, you can go to a cleaning cycle, which is right here. And right now it's set on a 20-second purge. I'm going to change that. I'm going to select, we're going to do a 1-second purge, and then there's also a blot and a clean that it goes through. So we'll try that one. We'll click run, and that'll basically shoot ink through all the nozzles and run a cleaning cycle, so that if there's something jamming one of the nozzles, it can clean it out. Now if we look at 8 and 7 again, so we want to adjust these to be the same speed. So this process can take a while, but this is the process that you would do. You try and find a series, usually of anywhere from 2 to 4, that are jetting somewhat uniformly and jetting good. You would then have these drops fall at a uniform pace, and then you would want to adjust that pace. You'd want to look at your delay, and you'd want to see a constant spot at one spot right around 6 to 7, anywhere between 6 and 900 micrometers. And that would be the process for adjusting drop velocities.